Let's get some analysis now from Ben Aris. He joins me live from Berlin. He is the editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews. It's really good to see you, Ben. Thank you so much for being with us today. So obviously neither side wants to make concessions in making an agreement. The conversation is revolving, though, around Ukraine, whether or not Ukraine will be making those concessions. Will they be able to reach some sort of an agreement without giving up territory?
I think without giving up territory is impossible. That it's been clear from the start that they're not going to get territories they've lost back. The question is going to boil down to does Ukraine withdraw completely from the Donbass, which is something Putin's insisting on, or does it just freeze the conflict along the line of conflict, the current line, which would be a compromise, perhaps. I mean, encouragingly, Zelensky has suggested at the weekend during the Geneva meetings that they are open to the idea of giving up some sort of territory, but the details of that will be key. And what's coming out of the discussions going on yesterday and today is that this question of territories is going to be kicked upstairs. It's the same as in the Istanbul deal right at the beginning of the war in 2022. The really, really difficult questions like territory is going to come down to a face-to-face meeting between Zelensky and Putin at some point, if this whole process progresses to that point, where they're going to have to thrash out the details.
Trump is at the forefront currently leading the mediation between the two sides. The U.S., of course, is playing an important position. But, of course, it's the leverage on Russia that seems like will get any deal through at this point. Is it going to be the U.S. compared to the likes of Turkey that will be able to put pressure on Russia to keep them on track in this peace process?
The U.S. is playing an incredibly important role. I think, step back, there's 2 points you should make at the beginning. First of all, that this is the most positive talks we've had since the Istanbul Agreement in 2022, where a peace deal was nearly done. Since then, the talks have been going nowhere, and the optimism coming out of particularly the Geneva meeting, but also the Kremlin's reaction to the original 28-point plan was very positive. But the second point I should make is, at the moment, the conversation is going on between Ukraine, America, and the European allies. And as your correspondent reported, the 28 points has already been cut down to 19, and several key things like NATO membership, like the territories, have been removed from the list, which is indicative of how difficult it is. And as your correspondent Dasha mentioned, the reaction yesterday from Ushakov, who's the chief foreign policy advisor to Putin and a key member of the delegations that have been negotiating this, indicated that the new list, the watered-down list, the EU version of the list, is much less acceptable to the Kremlin than the original 28 points, which was thrashed out reportedly between Dmitriev, the Russian special envoy, and Vitkov, the American special envoy. And Ushakov was saying that version contained a lot of the points that Trump and Putin talked about in Alaska, and they were, positive on that deal. And I think the new deal with the European points is going to be much less acceptable. And this is key because it's this morning, Driscoll, the representative from the States on Ukraine, is meeting with the Russian delegation for the first time in Abu Dhabi. So the Russians are going to have their chance to respond, and that meeting is key. And the Russians have to sign off on this. And at the moment, it looks like it's going to be very difficult negotiation.
Okay, Ben Aris, thank you so much for being with us here on the NewsHour and sharing that insight with us. I appreciate it.